The Forbidden Library. Introduction. In the small, sleepy town of Old Heath, nestled deep within a dense, ancient forest, whispers of the supernatural had persisted for generations. The town, with its cobblestone streets and centuries-old buildings, seemed trapped in time. The forest that surrounded it was thick with towering trees whose branches interlocked like skeletal fingers, blocking out much of the sunlight. Old Heath's inhabitants were accustomed to the strange happenings that occasionally disturbed their otherwise tranquil lives, but nothing could have prepared them for the horrors that were about to unfold. The heart of the forest was home to the old, abandoned Old Heath Manor. It stood as a monument to the town's dark past, a relic from an era of wealth and mystery. The mansion, now dilapidated and overrun by nature, was the subject of countless local legends. Some spoke of hidden treasures, while others warned of restless spirits and curses. Yet, no one dared to venture into the manor after sundown. The Friends. Our story begins with three friends, Emily, Mitch, and Alyssa. Emily was an avid photographer with a fascination for the paranormal. Her curiosity often led her to explore places most people would avoid. Mitch, a skeptic by nature, had always been the voice of reason among the trio. He was analytical and pragmatic, often dismissing Emily's ghost stories as mere folklore. Alyssa, on the other hand, was a firm believer in the supernatural, her grandmother's tales of ghosts and curses having left a lasting impression on her. One crisp autumn afternoon, Emily stumbled upon an old map in her grandmother's attic. The map detailed the grounds of Old Heath Manor, marking various rooms and hidden passages. It was a thrilling discovery for Emily, who had long been intrigued by the manor's mysteries. She quickly showed the map to Mitch and Alyssa, her excitement palpable. "Think of the amazing photos we could get," Emily exclaimed. "And who knows what we might discover?" Mitch rolled his eyes but couldn't hide his curiosity. "It's just an old house, Em. There's probably nothing there but dust and rats." Alyssa, however, was intrigued. "What if we find something? Something that explains all the strange stories?" After some debate, they decided to explore the manor the following weekend. Armed with flashlights, cameras, and a sense of adventure, the three friends set off for Old Heath Manor at dusk. The manor. As they approached the manor, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the forest floor. The mansion loomed before them, its silhouette dark and foreboding against the twilight sky. Ivy crawled up its stone walls, and shattered windows gave it a hollow, lifeless appearance. They entered through the grand front doors, which creaked ominously on their hinges. The interior was even more decrepit than they had imagined. Dust coated every surface, and cobwebs hung like ghostly curtains from the ceiling. The air was thick with the smell of mold and decay. Emily led the way, her camera clicking as she documented their journey. They moved cautiously, their flashlights casting eerie shadows on the walls. The silence was almost deafening, broken only by the sound of their footsteps and the occasional scurrying of rats. In the dim light, they saw portraits of stern-faced men and women, likely the manor's former inhabitants. Their eyes seemed to follow the trio as they moved from room to room. Emily couldn't help but shiver as she captured the unsettling images. The discovery. After exploring several rooms, they reached a grand staircase that led to the upper floors. Emily's flashlight beam caught something glinting at the top of the stairs. She hurried up, her friends following closely behind. At the top, they found a small, ornate key lying on the floor. "This must open something important," Alyssa said, examining the key. They continued their exploration, searching for the lock that matched the key. Finally, they reached a room at the end of a long corridor. The door was different from the others. It was reinforced with iron bands and bore strange symbols carved into the wood. Emily inserted the key into the lock and turned it. With a loud click, the door swung open, revealing a hidden library. Shelves lined the walls, filled with dusty old books and ancient scrolls. In the center of the room stood a large, wooden desk. Mitch, intrigued despite his skepticism, began to examine the books. Many were written in languages he couldn't understand, but one book stood out. It was a thick, leather-bound volume with a dark cover and no title. He opened it, revealing pages filled with handwritten notes and diagrams. "This looks like a journal," Mitch said, his voice hushed. "But it's written in some kind of code." As they pored over the journal, Alyssa noticed a trapdoor hidden beneath a rug in the corner of the room. With some effort, they managed to pry it open, revealing a narrow staircase that descended into darkness. "Should we go down?" Alyssa asked, her voice trembling with excitement and fear. Emily nodded, her camera ready. "Absolutely." The descent. The staircase led to a series of underground tunnels. The air was damp and cold, and the walls were lined with strange symbols and crude drawings. Their flashlights flickered as they descended deeper into the darkness, their footsteps echoing eerily. At the end of the tunnel, they found a large, cavernous chamber. In the center stood an ancient stone altar, covered in strange markings and surrounded by burnt-out candles. The air was thick with the scent of wax and something else, something metallic and unpleasant. On the altar lay an old, tattered book. Its pages were yellowed with age, and the cover was adorned with a strange symbol, the same symbol that had been carved into the door of the hidden library. Emily approached the altar, her hands trembling as she picked up the book. As she opened it, a cold breeze swept through the chamber, extinguishing their flashlights and plunging them into darkness. Panicked, they fumbled to turn their flashlights back on. When the lights flickered back to life, they found themselves face to face with a horrifying sight. Shadows moved on the walls, taking on human forms. Whispered voices filled the chamber, speaking in a language they couldn't understand. The curse. The book in Emily's hands seemed to pulse with a dark energy. The shadows grew more defined, revealing ghastly faces contorted in anguish. The whispers grew louder, becoming a cacophony of tormented cries. Suddenly, the shadows lunged at them. The friends screamed and tried to run, but the shadows seemed to pull them back. Emily clutched the book to her chest, her mind racing. "What is happening?" Mitch shouted, his voice filled with terror. Alyssa's eyes were wide with fear. "We need to get out of here." Emily realized that the book was the source of the darkness. Desperate, she threw it onto the altar. The shadows recoiled, their whispers turning into screams of agony. The ground beneath them began to shake, and the walls of the chamber started to close in. With all their strength, the friends fought their way back to the staircase. As they ascended, the whispers and screams echoed behind them, urging them to move faster. They reached the top and slammed the trapdoor shut, panting and trembling. Escape. The manor seemed even more sinister as they made their way back to the entrance. The portraits on the walls appeared to watch them with a malevolent gaze, and the air was thick with a sense of impending doom. They stumbled out of the mansion, the cool night air a stark contrast to the oppressive atmosphere inside. They ran through the forest, branches scratching at their faces and clothes. When they finally reached the town, they collapsed on the cobblestone streets, gasping for breath. The town's lights seemed like a beacon of safety after the horrors they had witnessed. For days, the friends were haunted by the memories of that night. They couldn't shake the feeling that they had unleashed something terrible. Emily's photographs revealed eerie, ghostly figures that hadn't been visible to the naked eye. Mitch, ever the skeptic, was forced to confront the reality of the supernatural. Alyssa, who had always believed in ghosts, now found herself terrified by the very thing she had once embraced. The return. Despite their fear, the friends knew they had to do something to stop the darkness they had unleashed. They returned to Zara, the town's wise elder, hoping she might have answers. Zara listened to their story with a grave expression. "The book you found is an ancient artifact," she explained. "It contains powerful dark magic that should never have been disturbed. The shadows you encountered are the spirits of those who fell victim to its curse." Zara told them that the only way to stop the darkness was to return the book to the altar and perform a ritual of banishment. The friends were terrified at the thought of returning to the manor, but they knew it was their only hope. Armed with Zara's instructions and a renewed sense of determination, they set off for the manor once more. The journey felt even more ominous than before, the forest seeming to close in around them. As they approached the mansion, they steeled themselves for the horrors that awaited them. The final confrontation. Inside the manor, the atmosphere was thick with malevolence. The shadows seemed to writhe and whisper, anticipating their return. The friends made their way back to the hidden library, where the trapdoor stood ominously open. Descending the staircase once more, they felt the cold, damp air envelop them. The cavernous chamber was just as they had left it, the altar standing in the center. The shadows were there too, lurking in the corners, their eyes glint. If you liked the video, then please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Thanks.